Good evening, Chicago. Welcome on in to the 150th episode of Chi-Town Weekly. I wish we had something better to celebrate, though, because this was a rough one this weekend. Oi! We got the Bears dropping another one down in Tampa Bay. We've got the Cubs getting swept out of Arizona. We've got the Sky getting swept out of the WNBA playoffs. Woo! A rough weekend. One of the rougher weekends of sports in Chicago that we have had for a while. But don't worry, we are going to get through it. We are going to break it down. We are going to get through group therapy session all together as one big Chicago sports family here. And we'll try to have some fun along the way. And we do have a little bit of fun to celebrate. All that plus more coming up right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Chi-Town Weekly. Let's go. And once again, hello and good evening, everyone. I am your host, Adam Karnick. Welcome on in to the 150th episode of Chi-Town Weekly. I just realized it tonight as I was getting ready to start the show. Wait a minute. This is episode 150, so I don't necessarily have anything for 150 planned in particular, but we'll try to have some fun with it. We'll try to enjoy it. It was just a little over 3 years ago that I started doing this podcast. It was August of 2020 that I started doing this podcast. So just over 3 years ago, and wow, to have made it this far. I'm surprised, to be honest. I'm surprised to have made it as far as we have with this. So we'll try to get some of that in here a little bit tonight too, to celebrate that a little bit. But before we go any further, of course, we do need to do our homework here on the show, and that is acknowledge our sponsor here at IE Sports Radio, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, the single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. This is some of the best jerky you can get your hands on. All you have to do is visit planetjerky.net to place your order. They ship all throughout the United States. My wife would highly recommend the classic barbecue. I have been enjoying the volcanic jalapeno. I finally finished off that bag here in the last week. Very good. Would highly recommend either one of those. Once again, a huge shout out to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet. IE Sports Radio. For the last 9 years, we have been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Be sure to follow us on X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at IE Sports Radio to keep up with the latest in sports and with our shows. Also, check out our daily updated website, iesportsradio.com, for sports news, the IE Sports Radio Radio blog, our Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month, pages dedicated to each podcast, our IE Sports Radio community forum, and stop by the shop to check out the merchandise. Once again, thank you for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. You heard on there the way to follow along with the station on all of social media. You can also follow along with this show on X, formerly Twitter, at IESRC, or if you want to follow along with me personally, I am at Adam_Karnick. And if you are listening live here tonight on Monday night, hop on into the chat room there on Spreaker. We find Larry B. We find Taryn Rodriguez already there. Good evening, gentlemen. Hop on in. We can interact, have some fun that way. Or if you're listening later on as a podcast, whether it's iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you are finding our content, or you just want to sit back and listen to me, thank you for being here. Thank you for making this part of your sports routine, part of your sports week. I really do appreciate it. Well, we've got to start off, of course, with the Bears game. Last week, I had to use this space, this forum, basically to vent to my frustrations with the team. Unfortunately, this week, Larry putting in the chat that Adam hates the Bears and that I'm angry. As crazy as it is to say just 2 weeks into the season, I already think I've moved past anger. I am dangerously close to apathy with this team. It is alarming how bad this organization is, how bad this franchise is right now, how in just 2 weeks into this season, just how dire of straits this situation is. And we'll talk about the game a little bit micro, and then we'll pull out and take a more macro look at it overall. In the micro, you had a fantastic opening drive, 75 yards and a touchdown. Oh my goodness. You incorporated DJ Moore. You got 2 30-plus yard pass plays out of DJ Moore on that first drive. It culminated in Justin Fields taking it in for the score himself. And you had a productive looking offense on that first drive. And then nothing else worked. Just nothing else worked in the game. They over the course of the next 10 drives netted 62 yards. Where it was just, it didn't matter what they did, it didn't work. And then meanwhile, defensively, you had Coach Eberflus took over the play calling duties because Alan Williams very suddenly had to leave the team to take care of some personal matters. The team hasn't said, and I heard a quote from Jalen Johnson tonight. He was doing a radio spot, and he said that he isn't aware of what's going on with defensive coordinator Alan Williams. So they're keeping it very close to the vest on what's going on there. So you have Matt Eberflus calling plays, and it didn't matter. It's still the same result there. Good evening, Drewski, tuning in. Big 150. Yeah, I am surprised to find, pleasantly surprised to see that this is effectively the 3-year show, if you will. About a month after the 3-year anniversary, but show 150 effectively The 3-year anniversary show. I can't believe I've been doing this show for 3 years now. But once again, the defense just the same problems. And then Tampa Bay winds up with a 10-point lead in the second half, and it just feels insurmountable. And then we get to the final 2 minutes. Somehow, miraculously, the Bears find themselves in the position where they're only down 3. They have a pair of timeouts plus the 2-minute warning, and all they need to do is get into field goal range. And through a bizarre sequence of events, an offsides on the Buccaneers, followed up by an offensive pass interference on the Bears, leads then to Fields throwing a pick six. And I had put, right before the Bears started that drive, I put something on Twitter to the effect of, here you go, Bears. Here's your opportunity to reset the table. Nothing has gone right for you beyond the first drive, but all that can be washed away by having success on this drive. You have a chance to put your stamp, put your seal on this game. Impress me. 3 plays later, it's a pick six. And in a lot of ways, that play right there is the perfect microcosm of all the problems that are going on with the team. First of all, you have Justin can't throw that ball there. You've got to react to what the defense is doing and live to play another day. Your option on your screen pass is gone. Throw it at his feet. Live to fight another down. Find another option. Do something other than try to force it to your running back anyway when the linebacker has read it perfectly. Luke Getsy, to explain, it was such a dumb play call because you had literally called the exact play the play before. It got called back because of an offensive pass interference on Chase Claypool, but it was literally the exact same play 2 plays in a row, to the point where the Buccaneers pointed it out after the fact that they knew what was coming. It did not surprise them that it was a screen pass. So there was no surprise. Once again, we talked about this last week, that the basis for a lot of Getsy's play calls are predicated upon the defense not knowing what's coming. And once again, the defense knew what was coming and was able to react accordingly with disastrous results for the Bears. A pick six that effectively ended the game. You also have failures on other players. Eberflus today talked about how Ja'Tyre Carter, who was, again, only in the game because Nate Davis was missing the game because Davis had personal reasons. We now know the source of why Nate Davis didn't practice all offseason with the team. Apparently he had a very sick family member that passed away last week, at the end of last week, so that's why Davis suddenly missed the game. He had to go attend to his family. Condolences out to Nate Davis and his family. I have to reset myself for a second before I say this next thing, because I do not want it to come off sarcastic, and I'm afraid that it might. Take all the time you need, Nate Davis, truly. Family first. Take all the time you need. make sure things are taken care of, and then come back and then get to work. But Eberflus then called out Jatir Carter. Oh, well, you got to make Shaq Barrett get further down. You can't let Shaq Barrett sit back on that route and allow him to just sit and wait for that screen pass. And then Chase Claypool had screwed up the play before with the pass interference, not knowing that, they'd called a screen pass, not a running play. And that's why he was blocking downfield early. You just have so many errors all happening at the same time that you wind up, it's everybody's fault at the same time. It's the quarterback's fault for throwing the ball. It's the play caller's fault for calling literally the same play 2 plays in a row and thinking that you're going to catch the defense by surprise. It is the head coach's fault for not adequately making sure that the team is prepared for the task ahead. And we'll segue from that into the macro, because that is a huge problem for the Bears right now. This coaching staff is not preparing the team. Last year, it was one thing that the Bears were getting outplayed every single week. You knew they were a roster of misfit toys. You knew, everybody understood what was really going on, that the Bears were in the midst of a teardown. You can't say it, but that's what it is. But they'd have some glimmers from time to time of, oh, wow, they made it through a game where they effectively only committed 1 or 2 penalties. The Bears had 5 penalties for 28 yards yesterday. You have and coming at the worst times, you have guys not knowing what the play call is, not knowing what the assignment is, not knowing how to play with each other. And then to top it all off, you have the lack of progress, the lack of progression with, and probably even regression with the quarterback, Justin Fields. I caught myself yesterday at one point in the fourth quarter. I was watching the game. I was also, both my kids were in the living room, and I found myself honestly just watching my kids play a little bit and enjoying that moment and being in that moment. I looked up over at the television. It was, the offense is on the field. Oh, never mind. I don't need to pay attention. And I caught myself a couple seconds later. I was like, wait a minute. What? This whole thing, we can't be at this point. This whole thing is about making sure that the quarterback is right, seeing if the quarterback can progress. And we've hit the point where you don't even want to give it your full attention because you know it's not going to end well. This is such a horrible place to be in. And I kind of hate that I have to go here. The Bears have me agreeing with Stephen A. Smith, of all people. I saw a blurb come across my phone while I was at work today. It was Stephen A. rips the Bears apart. And I was, oh gosh. I generally, I don't usually listen to him. You say what you have to say, and I'll leave it alone. He's not the worst one of the talking heads out there, Skip Bayless, but Stephen A. is high on that list for me, where it's whatever, dude, go away. I don't care to hear your opinion. But I had to listen to this one, and god darn it, he's right. The Bears have absolutely failed Justin Fields. They have failed to allow him to progress. Getsy has learned nothing from last season. They had the mini bye where they scrapped the playbook and instead just basically began running the Lamar Jackson playbook. And you saw Justin become one of the most electric players in the NFL, one of the most exciting players in the NFL. And it's as if they've forgotten. They forgot that that's what worked. I understand that you want that's not what you want him to. That's not what you want the final product to be. I understand that. But he's not ready to do the Tom Brady drop back, completely dissect the defense and understand this is where everybody's going to be at any specific time, and therefore this receiver is going to be that is running this route over here is going to be open because of this coverage, and that guy's in the wrong spot and this guy's over here, and he's not there yet. You can put some of that on the coaches, put some of that on Fields. Absolutely. Until then, do the things you can do. Run the bootlegs, run the RPOs, run the quarterback keepers. He had 4 carries for 3 yards yesterday. This is a guy that ran for over 1,100 yards a year ago. I realize that not even he wants to be that this year, but to ignore it completely makes no sense. The Bears have failed Justin Fields utterly, totally, and completely. To the point where he looks like he's playing scared out there. Like he just doesn't know what to do. There were multiple times yesterday where he had open receivers, but he was so paralyzed with indecision that he couldn't pull the trigger on any of them. That is equally on Fields and the coaches. You've got to figure out how to solve this, and you can't wait until the mini bye after the Thursday night game against Washington here in a few weeks. You can't wait that long. You can't wait for that. You're in the midst of a 12-game losing streak. The longest losing streak in the history of the franchise. And frankly, it's worse than that. The Bears were 3-14 a year ago. But remember that 2 of those wins came in the first 3 weeks, in the month of September. Since then, the Bears have played 16 games. They've won once. 16 games used to be a full schedule. It wasn't that long ago that 16 games was the length of a schedule. The Bears are 1-15 in their last 16 games. As Matt Garner so eloquently put it, in our group chat, he's been on the show a few times as a guest, usually in basketball season, college basketball season. But as he brought it up in our little group chat, that's Detroit Lions level of ineptitude. The Cleveland Browns are playing right now. That's Cleveland Browns level of bad that the Bears have sunk to. You can't wait until a mini bye. Oh, Mike, absolutely. Let's place a wager on that game. Bears Commanders. Mike Pat, the host of Let's Whine About DMV Sports. Absolutely. Let's have some fun with that game. Heaven knows we need something to spice it up. I don't know that the game itself will be that entertaining. And then, and it's not like there's a light at the end of the tunnel coming up here, because as Taryn just points out, they've got the Chiefs next week. I guarantee you Bishop and the KC guys, you can hear Bishop on Monday afternoons right here on IE Sports Radio, breaking down all things Kansas City sports. Go back and on the Spreaker playlist and play him from today. I promise you, they're not worried about the Bears. They're not. You're staring at 0-3 to start the year, which is 1-16 in your last full season's worth of games. And lest we think that I'm only going to pick on the offense, no. The defense has nothing to hang its hat on either. You're talking about a defense you're talking about a head coach that comes from the defensive side of the ball. They got to call plays yesterday. This is a defense that, listen to these third down numbers that the Bears defense has surrendered. This is from Pro Football Focus's Brad Spielberger put this on X yesterday. The Bears defense against the pass on 3rd and 4th downs this season. Opposing quarterbacks are 20 of 23 for 282 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's an 87% completion and averaging 12.3 yards per attempt. They've given up 8 receptions of 15 or more yards and have allowed a quarterback rating of 157.3. That is damn near perfect. That is almost a perfect quarterback rating allowed on 3rd down. Meanwhile, through 2 games, you have 1 sack and 0 takeaways. The Bears are on pace for 8.5 sacks as a team this year. There are players in the league right now that have more sacks than the Bears team. You had one yesterday for Tampa Bay. Vita Vea had 1.5 sacks, and Joe Tryon-Shoyinka had a pair of sacks. Both of those guys currently have more sacks than the entire Bears team. And I know the defensive line got pressures yesterday. And I know that TJ Edwards it was Tremaine Edwards had 1 million tackles. Your defensive line is doing nothing. Is doing absolutely nothing to affect the game. They're getting pressures, but they're not finishing the play. Micah Parsons, Montez Sweat, Chase Young. You just keep the list coming. There was a guy for the Dolphins last night that had 2 sacks in 1 quarter last night. More than the Bears have had in 8 quarters. So it's just a mess everywhere. And there's no obvious light at the end of this tunnel for the Bears. I said it last week. I'm going to say it again. I am ready to be done with this coaching staff. I'm not inspired by anything I'm seeing from them. And I'm not ready Thank you, Taryn. Joey Bosa had 2 sacks on 8 snaps, and he was questionable with a hamstring injury. Mike asks, Daron Payne in one series had a sack, a tackle for loss, and a deflection. Does that mean he outproduced the Bears defense on one drive? By the way, that drive was also a 3 and out. Well, I don't think the Bears defense has forced a 3 and out yet this season. I'd have to actually look. I don't know. It feels like it that they haven't forced a 3 and out yet this season. I would be willing to say yes, that Daron Payne then in that one series was more productive than the entire Bears defense. And the secondary, the strong part of the Bears defense, now the injuries are piling up. No Kyler Gordon. Josh Blackwell was a no-go. The backup nickelback was a no-go. You had Eddie Jackson leave with a foot injury. You had Jaquan Brisker leave the game with an illness and then come back in. You're starting to have the injury bug is starting to now work through the secondary. It's only going to get worse. I wish I could be more optimistic. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer because again, we're 2 weeks in. We are 2 games into this season. But it really does feel like it's over because I don't trust this coaching staff to make the adjustments they need to make until it's too late. You can't wait for the mini bye week. You can't wait for the actual bye week. That's almost the end of November this year. You've got to start implementing changes now. You've got to start reacting to what your players can do instead of what you wish they could do. And I still feel like that's where the Bears coaching staff is at. That Getsy is, well, this is the offense I want to run. I know I referenced this last year, but I'm going to bring it up again. The movie We Are Marshall with Matthew McConaughey. I keep coming back to that scene where Matthew McConaughey, as the head coach at Marshall, he picks up the playbook and he says, and he addresses the coaching staff and he says, guys, it was my idea to run this offense. I believe in this offense. I chose it. He then picks up the playbook and throws it in the trash. And but we can't run it. Guys, give us something. I don't care how silly it sounds. What can we run? And they completely on the fly come up with an offense that they've never run before, that they're borrowing from another school, that it's, hey, you guys, that one of the assistant coaches says, well, hey, let's run the veer because it's it's predicated on an offense that struggles on the offensive line. Okay, great. How do we run it? And they go from there. That's what this coaching staff needs to do. You need to say, guys, this is what we want to run. But you know what? We can't right now. So instead, let's do this. We're going to keep working on this other stuff. We want to get to here, but we're not there yet. But in the meantime, you've got to win some games. You've got to win some games. Kevin Warren, one final thought, and then I'm way late for a break. I do want to talk other than football tonight. Kevin Warren was hired this offseason to be the new CEO for the Bears, to take over for Ted Phillips. And from the word jump, it was, he's overseeing football operations, but his primary focus is figuring out where the Bears are going to be playing football, where the Bears can build a stadium so that the Bears can get out of Soldier Field. That's his primary focus. That's what they want him to work on. if this keeps up, he's going to have to get off that project, and he's going to have to get involved in the day-to-day football, because Ryan Poles is going to be on the hot seat, and Eberflus and his staff is going to be in serious jeopardy of losing their jobs. These guys have got to figure out how to win games some way, somehow. We're going to take a quick break. Unfortunately, the Bears weren't the only ones that had a rough weekend over the weekend. The Cubs entered the weekend very firmly entrenched as the number 2 wildcard team in the National League. They suddenly find themselves, if the season were over today, they would be on the outside of the playoffs. What in the world happened out in the desert? We will discuss that and more here on Chi-Town Weekly, part of IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey yo, what's up? It's your man Bishop, the voice of This Is KC Sports, the show where we go over the Chiefs, the Royals, KC Current, Sporting KC, MU, and oh yeah, if we got time, we'll even throw in some of that KU stuff from my people on the 913 South. Come and hang out with us every Sunday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Green team, set, hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
All right. Welcome to AZ Sports Daily. I'm your host, Kiernan Daly, bringing the heat to Arizona sports. There's no discrimination here. We're going to talk about every sports team, professional and college. The show is all about you, the listener. I'm here to entertain you. Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here? It's going to be fun, high energy. You may not agree with what I say. That's okay. Let me hear you. Let's talk about it. Join me every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on AZ Sports Daily. That's AZ Sports, D-A-L-E-Y, and at IE Sports Radio. your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Coming up right after us here tonight, be sure to stick around for Taryn Rodriguez and Set Point, breaking down everything happening in the volleyball world. I imagine on the docket tonight he's going to be discussing that epic volley that took place in Nebraska over the weekend. I tweeted it out and tagged the Set Point show on there. It was one of the more impressive volleys you're going to see in volleyball at any level. It was about a 2.5 to 3 minute long volley that occurred there between the two sides. That was with some outstanding saves, some great digs. It was a good one. Go check it out and be sure to listen to Taryn and his analysis of it. And hey, there's good Chicago stuff going on too in the volleyball world. The Loyola volleyball team is always doing well. So stuff to check out there. All right. So we griped about the Bears in the first segment. We're not going to gripe more about the Bears, but I'm sorry, Taryn. He's correcting me. The correct terminology would be a rally. I apologize. I apologize for that, Taryn. Well, it was impressive to watch back and forth. It was a hard-earned point that went on. It was very good to watch. So we griped about the Bears in the first segment. I put it up on X last night as soon as the Cubs game was done. I put up the poll. It was who had the worst weekend, the Bears losing in Tampa or the Cubs getting swept in Arizona. They came in. It was only about a week ago, week and a half ago, that the Cubs were, according to ESPN, an 88% chance to make the playoffs. Basically an 8 in 9 chance of making the playoffs. They are now a coin flip. And if the season were over right now, they'd actually be on the outside looking in. The Cubs have dropped 5 straight and 8 of their last 10. And the teams they're losing to, I mean, they dropped 3 out of 4 to Arizona, then dropped 2 out of 3 to Colorado before getting swept in the desert by the Diamondbacks. Now, the Diamondbacks are one of those teams that is trying to vie for one of the wild card spots. You've got the Cubs, the Diamondbacks, the Giants, the Reds, and the Marlins all fighting for the last 2 wild card spots. But still, the Cubs, this weekend too, it was all lined up perfectly for them. You had Steele, Hendricks, and Wicks set to go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and nothing, absolutely nothing from the offense, and the pitching just couldn't keep it going. Mike commenting that his baseball teams are beautifully polar. You have, on the one hand, the Baltimore Orioles have already clinched a playoff spot and are a remarkable comeback story in the American League. And then on the other hand, you have the Washington Nationals, who are already eliminated, and I believe at last check are losing to the White Sox right now. And if losing to the White Sox isn't impressive, then in a bad way, then I don't know what would be. impressive in a bad way. Last I saw, it is 6-0 White Sox in that game. The Nationals are bad. Breaking news. But the Cubs, though, it's just alarming what's been going on. And I was commenting in one of my group chats about it, and we kind of came to the consensus that it feels like the Cubs have just run out of gas. And then I'm perusing the social media today, and I find a great article from Cubs Insider by Evan Altman, who does a terrific job of covering the club. And the headline is, Cubs running on fumes as guys who got them here fade. Perfect. There you go. They have just absolutely run out of gas. They overachieved at the perfect time. They're not quite ready yet to be where they were, and they're just fading down the home stretch. Evan does a wonderful job during the article pointing out how Seiya Suzuki benefited from a little bit of a benching before coming back in, and he uses that as kind of a litmus. Before being benched, Suzuki had a weighted runs created plus, which, if you remember correctly, that's a single number where 100 is league average. If you're better than 100, then you're better than league average. If you're below 100, you're less than league average in offense. Suzuki had a weighted runs created plus of 65. That's horrible. Since getting benched and coming back, he's got a weighted runs created plus of 181. Phenomenal. Amazing. At that same time, though, look at some of the other Cubs players. Nico Horner had a weighted runs created plus 123. It's now 119. All right, it's still very good, but it slipped. Ian Happ was 128. Now he's 111. All right. This one's huge. Cody Bellinger, before 207. Otherworldly good. More than twice as good as league average. Now 104. Basically at league average. That's a huge drop. The other gigantic one, Dansby Swanson. Before Suzuki got benched, he was at 158 weighted runs created plus. Now, 75. Half as good of a player as he used to be. And well below league average. The Cubs are still, they flashed it on ESPN last night during the game that the Cubs are one of the best scoring offenses in the National League in the second half of the season. And I thought, yeah, that's right, but boy, it doesn't feel like it. And sure, and Altman points it out right here. In their last 36 games, so the last month and change, they've only scored 170 runs in that time. That's less than 5 runs a game. This offense is struggling. And you get it that a lot of these guys, Swanson in particular, Bellinger in particular, they're getting paid a lot of money. You need to have them out there. And what other choice do you have in some of these instances? You've got to have somebody out there playing shortstop. You know, you can't have both Swanson and Horner out at the same time. You've run out of bodies, basically. That means you're playing Nick Madrigal in shortstop, or heaven help us, Miles Mastrobuoni in one of those middle infield spots. If you have Bellinger out, He's been playing a lot of first base. That means you got to have Patrick Wisdom out there. Patrick Wisdom isn't giving you anything offensively. How is this going to help you? So I get it. They're running out of options and they're running out of time. It was really super exciting, though, to see Pete Crow Armstrong, wasn't it? The Cubs' top prospect made his major league debut in Colorado, and whoa! In his first start, 2 amazing catches in center field. One where he had to cover 100 feet in 5 seconds. Just amazing. He then followed it up by losing one in the lights the next day, but that happens to everybody, especially a 21-year-old rookie in his first major league series. That's going to happen. But in one of the biggest center fields in all of baseball, Pete Crow Armstrong showed us that, you were able to make the old joke cliche of, 2/3 of the earth is covered by water. The rest is covered by Pete Crow Armstrong. Super exciting. Get him out there. Now, obviously, isn't necessarily the time that you want to be developing guys as you're trying desperately to stay in a playoff chase. But you got to give some of these guys some days off. You got to give Talkman a blow. You got to give Bellinger a blow. Let him reset himself a little bit, just for a game. Then get him back out there, because you can't afford to sit him out for a series at this point. You've only got 4 of them left. You got the Pirates. You've got the Rockies again. Then you got the Braves and the Brewers. And you hope that the timing is right for when you hit the Braves and Brewers next week, that they've clinched the divisions and they can just sit back and rest their guys so that they're ready for the playoffs. I officially yesterday during Big Cheese Sports with Bernie Bango, I officially conceded the NL Central race to the Brewers yesterday. I told them, good job, Brewers officially win the division. But Cubs are in a tough way. They don't have a ton of options, but they've got to do something to try to jumpstart this offense. It seems counterproductive to give some of your most important guys a game off, but you got to do something differently. I'm getting caught up in one of the other chat rooms. Well, Patty, you are very kind. Patty putting in our private group chat over here that I need to be the coach for the Bears. You are very kind, Patty. I appreciate it. I'll submit my resume when the time comes. I'll put it that way. I do want to end on a slightly positive note before we get out of here and we make way though for Taryn Rodriguez and Set Point. The final trifecta of the terrible sports weekend in Chicago was you had the Bears being bad, you had the Cubs being worse. The Sky had made the WNBA playoffs. They ran into the Aces. I didn't expect that they were going to beat the Aces. I was really hoping they would take a game, though. Instead, the Chicago Sky gets swept in 2 games against the Aces, 87-59 in the first one, and then 92-70 in the second one. Neither game particularly close. Not how you'd like the season to end. In fact, in game 2, if they had a lead, it was very early, and it was only by a point or 2. No, they did not have a lead at all yesterday in game 2. So the Chicago Sky also eliminated. There was a little bit of silver lining, though, as we prepare for potentially a very long sports winter here in Chicago between the Cubs potentially missing the playoffs and the Bears. I don't want to think about what they're staring down at the abyss of. There is a silver lining, I promise. Connor Bedard for the Blackhawks had not quite his official Blackhawks debut. They're having prospect camps right now, which is your young guys that draft picks and guys that you're bringing in on workout agreements and things like that, that you're taking a look-see at. They had a couple of games over the weekend, and in their first one against the Minnesota Wild, Connor Bedard recorded a hat trick, and he did it in grand fashion. He absolutely looked like the best player on the ice. Not saying that the Blackhawks are going to be any good at all this season, because they're not. But Connor Bedard, that's where we're at. We're pinning our hopes on an 18-year-old kid to give us something entertaining to watch this winter. Go check it out. Charlie Realmutis of NBC Sports tweeted out the highlights from it. They are 3 impressive-looking goals. He is going to be fun to watch this winter at United Center. That is going to do it for our show this week. Thank you to our sponsor, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, the jerky that is out of this world. Go check them out, planetjerky.net. I would recommend the Volcanic Jalapeno if you don't want something quite so hot. The Classic Barbecue is also delicious. I recommend either of them. Thank you to Larry B. All the hard work you do behind the scenes, sir, with everything, recruiting, updating the website, keeping us all in line and focused on what we're supposed to do and when we're supposed to do it, which that is no easy task some days. And running your own shows. You still have your own shows that you do on the station, too. Thank you to everybody in the chat room, Patty B, Mike Pat, Taryn Rodriguez, Drewski for checking in on me. Finally, thank you for listening, making this part of your sports week. Whether it was live here tonight on Monday or you listen on later on in the week as a podcast. Let your friends know. Share it. Say, hey, check this out. I really enjoy listening to this show. I think you would too. Send me feedback at IESRC on X or at Adam_Karnick. Send me the feedback. I'd love to hear it. I want to hear more from you guys. Coming up right after us, it's Taryn Rodriguez and Set Point. Coming up, breaking down everything happening in the world of volleyball. And then later on tonight as well, we'll be heading down to the Bayou. Where you at? 10 o'clock Central Time tonight. So we got lots on tap for you here tonight. Until next time, for IE Sports Radio, I am Adam Karnick. Thank you all so very much. We will talk next week, and until then, bear down.